Welcome to the Body, Mind, Spirit Show with me, your host, Coach Rita Hurry. Hey everyone, welcome to the Body, Mind, Spirit Show with me, your host, Rita Hurry. I'm very thankful today because I have another special guest. Her name is Lisa Tahir, and she is a licensed clinical social worker, an author, a psychotherapist, a podcast host, an artist, and a founder of PsychoAstrology. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Rita, thank you so much for having me on today. It is a delight.
It's my pleasure. So I like to start with people's journey. Where did it all begin with your journey into helping others through therapy and healing?
For me, Rita, it started when I was really young, when I was 5 years old. In fact, my parents found a note that I had scribbled, I want to be a psychiatrist, and it was misspelled because I was only 5. And I have it. My dad saved it. And at first, I always thought that was super humorous. And then as I've gotten older, I'm like, that's curious. Why would a 5-year-old want to be a psychiatrist? What's going on there? And part of that is because I grew up in a medical family with my father as a doctor, my mom is a psychiatric nurse. So I heard certain terminologies thrown around a lot when I was very young. And I've always been so curious about life, about people, about what's going on under the surface, what motivates us. And I found myself when I was just 21 years old starting therapy as a client to help me heal some emotional wounds that I had from my childhood and adolescence. And
Yeah,
when I was in therapy, Rita, it's when I knew this is what I want to do with my life, is help others to heal.
yeah, that's beautiful. Because you obviously you lead a very active lifestyle, because not only do you do a lot and help a lot of people through therapy and healing, but you yourself, you have some great self-care practices personally, which from what I've checked is surfing, indoor rock climbing, as well as running a non-profit foundation which is called the Yes Foundation, I believe.
Yes.
So can you tell us a bit about this, and also how you manage to balance everything, or does it actually help you in terms of balancing everything?
I appreciate this question, Rita, because I think it's important for our listeners and viewers to know that your self-care practices are like a toolbox, and you've probably heard it phrased that way, having tools in our toolboxes to care for ourselves, our body, our mind, and our spirits, as your show so beautifully is titled. And as many things as we can have to turn to is really awesome and necessary, because you might not feel like doing everything every day. And so for me, I have such varied things that I enjoy. The indoor rock climbing you mentioned, that was a big part of my life a couple of years ago. And I haven't done that in the last couple of years, but it's there. I know where to go to indoor rock climb should I feel like that's going to help me today to
Yeah,
care for myself, to get out of my mind and into my body, because we have energy in each of these sectors, body, mind, and spirit. And like right now, I'm more in my mind speaking with you than I am in my body. I'm calling on spirit to speak through me. So it's this integration of these three parts of ourselves that looks kind of different every day. So I think as many practices as we have can help us to feel satisfied in our lives.
yeah, I totally agree, because a big part of for myself is being creative, and I've got to have that flow of creativity through what I do outside of the work that I do with clients, as well as bring it in sometimes. So, like, say, for example, one of my hobbies is playing the guitar. I stopped for a long time, but it was like, no, something was guiding me pick it up again and learn it again, you know, go back to the basics. And it's something that, again, it's that fulfillingness, and it's that part of you that helps you and balances you out, and as you continue with daily life. So I totally get where you're coming from. So tell us more about the Yes Foundation.
The Yes Foundation I created in 2010 as a
Mhm.
result of the art that I create is glass art from molten liquid glass that becomes as solid as you sculpt it, as you blow it. And I had a dear friend whose husband fell from a ladder in around 2010 in that time frame, and he became paralyzed. And they're such good friends of mine. I saw him having to sell his boats and vehicles and things that really defined who he was, that he enjoyed doing. But since he was in a wheelchair, he had to give up some of those things. And I looked at glass art as an art form, and seeing that it's not ADA accessible, Americans with Disabilities Act accessible. And I
Mhm.
thought, I want to do that in the world. I want to create something so that people using a wheelchair can access glass blowing and glass casting, since it's made me so happy and satisfied. It's like therapy for me
Yeah,
to be in the studio. And so the Yes Foundation is my nonprofit, and I invented a modified workbench for people to blow glass from the wheelchairs that they use, so it's safe. They're in their own chair, and I
yeah,
had a prototype made and donated it to a local glass studio here in New Orleans. And it's like my passion project that I work on as I feel energy, and I have a media kit and brochure if any studios are interested to get this workbench, so that people with disabilities using wheelchairs can learn to blow glass and cast glass and have that as a tool in their toolbox for their
yeah,
happiness and well-being, as well as selling. It could be an income source for people as well. So that's just something that made me really happy to do, that I saw was needed and not invented yet. So I invented it.
yeah. Beautiful. I love that. And
Thank you.
I love the energy of, I mean, just since we've started speaking, it's that energy of giving and being of service to others. That's definitely what's coming across. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
going into my sixth sense there, but that's definitely what's
Yes.
coming through in the interview right now. So I love that.
Thank you. Thank you for
Mm.
noticing.
Thank you for doing what you do. So, what exactly is psychoastrology?
Rita, psychoastrology is simply a word that defines where your personal psychology meets your personal astrology. And for me, that's specifically in the astrological placement of a minor planet named Chiron, Chiron. And you might easily know what sun sign you are. Like, Rita, what's your sun sign? What sign are you?
I'm Aquarius.
You're Aquarius. And
Yeah.
so most everyone knows that. And some of you might even know your rising sign, where your moon is. But I've noticed that few people, including myself, even know what Chiron is. And
Mm.
when I received a meditation, when I asked the question, why do some of my clients who are very successful, very insightful, have really awesome lives? Why are they still experiencing anxiety and depression? And why am I still experiencing those emotions more often than I'd like? And
Yeah.
I asked that question, put it out there. And what I started to hear back was the word Chiron. And I didn't know what that was, besides a
Mhm.
reference from grad school of Carl Jung, who wrote about the archetypes, among other things. And Chiron is the archetypal wounded healer. Also in Greek mythology, Chiron was a centaur, half man, half horse, who was the founder of medicine and therapy and pharmacy and a healer. And so at first I didn't find that to be very remarkable, Rita, but as you probably know, when something wants you to get it, you start seeing it everywhere, you start
Yeah.
hearing it, and it's almost like the information wants you to have it personally. and won't let you go until you finally start to listen. And that
Yeah.
was happening for me. So I just started Googling Chiron, and it opened this whole world for me around healing these core wounds and vulnerabilities. It's a spectrum that for some of you listening, if you've experienced trauma like sexual abuse, domestic violence, neglect, this would be a core wounding where you don't feel good enough, when you've been abandoned, where you've been neglected. And for others of you, this might be more of an ouch point. It's a vulnerability, like you might not feel good enough despite professional success. And it gets to you from time to time, but it's not deeply motivating you and impeding you. So I see this wounding on that spectrum, vulnerability on one end, deep core wounding on the other. And knowing where Chiron is in your birth chart identifies one of 12 woundings and vulnerabilities. And when I started to think about that, Rita, I was like, okay, universe, you're telling me that my astrological chart is dictating a wounding to me. And I started to hear, no, 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 Lisa, that's not how it works at all. That we wrote our astrological charts. We wrote the life that we are here on earth living. And we don't have necessarily that concrete memory of before we were physical, when we were non-physical, wanting to come into this body on our planet, certain things we wanted to experience that we're living. And
Yeah.
we wrote our blueprints. We wrote the lives we want to live. And being human is about remembering that,
Yeah.
remembering ourselves and knowing we have absolute free will to grow, to change, to heal, to be anything we want. There are no limitations except for our own limiting beliefs and thoughts. And so my book, The Chiron Effect,
Yeah.
really addresses that, how to change the thoughts that we're thinking so that we can step into new ways of being and behaviors to really live into the lives that we most deeply desire, not what we're told that we can do, but what we want. And I wonder how that resonates with you, Rita.
Yeah, I mean, I totally 100% agree with that, because that's a big ethos in my life. In terms of the Chiron effect, which I was then actually going to talk to you about, how do we bring that together? I mean, obviously, I would say to all the listeners out there, go and get the book, because I'm sure you'll learn a lot more about this, and I'm sure it will answer this question. But just in general, like if we could touch on that, how does it help us to be able to heal and manage ourselves? Because obviously you've mentioned the core ethos there, but can you explain a little bit more about the Chiron effect and how it can help us?
Absolutely. So, even calling it Chiron effect, we are at the effect of our thoughts, and we
Mm,
can only go as far as our largest limiting belief. And if you sink into that for a moment, it's a different way of looking at things. We're only living as well as we believe we can. And
mm,
so we orbit. I see us as a mini solar system, Rita. We orbit particular people, places, and things every day. We call
mm,
it our routine, our habits. There's so much out there. Change a habit in 30 days. That's really about changing your orbit. And to change your orbit, to change your habits, you have to change your thoughts and what you believe is true for you. And when you know where Chiron is in your birth chart, it will illuminate what your limiting belief is about yourself. For example, Chiron in the sign of Aries speaks to a wounding and vulnerability in the way you feel about yourself, a core
yeah,
wounding in your value and in your worth. And this is the person that we see, the successful CEOs that kill themselves, people that have millions and millions of dollars, have created huge organizations benefiting mankind, but clearly they are so deeply unhappy within, they don't feel like they're enough and take their lives. And that's so sad to
yeah,
me, because you wouldn't know that about this person, that they're suffering in silence. And so when you know that you're disconnected from the value and worth that you're providing, it can cause you to feel depression and anxiety. And in knowing this, that my healing is to be done in my sense of my own value and worth, you can really concentrate your efforts there, your affirmations, how you choose to speak to yourself in your
Yeah.
self-talk. Is that making sense?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So it's giving you clarity as to the area where
Yes,
you can focus on, that is
100%.
giving you the because it's so easy to think, to be like, okay, well, finance is difficult, relationships are difficult. You can obviously see different areas in your life that may be impacted
Yes,
because of that one limiting area. But we don't
exactly.
sometimes connect those dots, do we? We're like, oh, so yeah, that's because of this or this situation that happened, or this, or we'd more likely blame an external person
Right.
instead of looking at the core effect that could be going on. I love
So
that
well
because,
said.
yeah, thank you. Because I think it's so important, like in this era, in this world, that we gain as much clarity about ourselves as we can, because it just makes our life more easier, and it helps us deal with anxiety and all these negative beliefs that we have much more easier when we've got these tools that give us clarity. So, Lisa, how powerful are we really?
I believe that we are all powerful as far as how our thoughts can shape our lives and create our lives when we align our thoughts with our beliefs, meaning that we believe that we can have what we want,
Yeah,
and we stay consistently in that knowing, in that inner knowing that we're on the path to it, that it's unfolding, that though I don't see right now my desire, that it is in the process of creation, of manifesting, and just to hold true inside of your body an emotional feeling of that end result before it's seen. And when we do that more often than we doubt, we do create what we truly want in our lives, in our bodies, in our relationships, in our bank accounts. And yes, how do you feel about that?
yeah, yeah, definitely, totally agree. It's seeing is a different way of seeing is believing. You're seeing it in your mind, you're seeing it in yourself, and then you start to believe it because you connect with the feeling of it. And then obviously as you start to believe in it, then it leads to receiving it. So I totally agree with you there. And just coming back to your book, The Chiron Effect, by, again, like we spoke about, having that clarity and having that guidance as well can help us to maintain that motivation, um, with that. So
And
that's
our
great.
belief in ourselves, Rita, as well, because it takes
Mm,
believing in ourselves. It takes
yeah,
knowing we're worthy, our worthiness, that we are valuable. And it's not based on just our output and what we do, it's who we are.
mm,
And when we're empathetic towards ourselves, meaning when we have an off day, we just allow it. Hey, I'm feeling vulnerable today,
yeah,
versus being critical and beating up on ourselves and cutting ourselves off from well-being. We're just going easy that day. We're being gentle that day. We're just doing what needs to be done that day, and maybe saving the harder things for another day once we're rested and more replenished. So really learning to mind our own energy and take
yeah,
care of ourselves in those ways.
yeah, definitely building that self-awareness. Have you noticed during your time in the field, um, what would you say has been the biggest struggle in life? And is there a common theme? Because I know we've mentioned a lot about valuing, ourselves. Would you say that is the biggest struggle that people have?
I think it would be different for everyone, Rita,
Mm,
because some people really know they're valuable and worthy. You might have grown up in a home where that was a value. And I'm so glad that it was, that there are people that really enter their adulthood knowing they're good enough and they're worthy. And so for someone like that, it might be a different area of their lives besides their relationship to self. It might be another area. So my kitty cat's getting in
Yeah.
the Zoom, right, wanting to tell you hello, Rita.
No.
So I think that varies from person to person, depending on your life experience.
Yeah. No, good answer. So I like to ask my guests to leave one golden nugget that the listeners can take away with them. What would be your final golden nugget? I know we've explored quite a few things and we've mentioned a lot of inspirational things in this interview, but what is
Yes.
your final golden nugget?
Rita, what comes up immediately to the forefront is learning. So, for those of you listening and watching, embracing this statement: everything is always working out for me. And when you start to affirm that, I even speak it out loud when something happens that's seemingly looking like it's not working out. I'll say, everything is working out for me. I intend this to work out for me. And to give an example of how cared for we are, the other day I had knocked over my smoothie on the carpet. It runs over down the air conditioning vent on the floor. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is such a mess. And it turns out when I opened the vent, it revealed to me there were some holes in the metal showing the ground below, like
Oh,
underneath, like the ground, the outside, that I was
yeah,
able to take caulk and fill those holes, and it was an easy cleanup of the smoothie. But even that was working out for me, for the universe to get my attention. Hey,
yeah,
there's some holes in the AC vent to caulk up. So
yeah,
even, and that's kind of an obvious example of how a spill led to something better.
yeah,
So
yeah,
even the more complex things, that everything is working out for you, that things that occur that might seemingly be odd, to just lean into them and
mm,
ask, how is this working out for me, and even come into alignment with, I'd like things to work out for me with more joy, with more ease, with more flow, with more happiness, instead of problems, prosperity, like things happening that I'm learning through love, that I'm learning easy through easy ways, not hard ways, not the
yeah,
hard knocks, but the gentle little encouragements, because we can change how we even experience life by
yeah,
by asking and really starting to believe that for ourselves.
yeah. I totally agree with you there, Lisa. So, where can our viewers and listeners go to find out more information about you, your service, and the Chiron Effect?
Thank you, Rita. I would love for you all to check it out. You can Google my name, Lisa Tahir, Tahir. You're welcome to go to my website as well. It's nolatherapy.com, NOLA therapy.com. It stands for New Orleans, Los Angeles Therapy, the two places that I live. That's also my Instagram, NOLA Therapy. And I'd love to offer, Rita, your listeners and viewers, if they want to do a Zoom session with me to talk about Chiron or emotional healing, I'm happy to give them 50% off if they just mention your name or Body, Mind, Spirit Show. I'd love to offer that in case you want to really understand more of how where you feel vulnerable is actually your greatest asset.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you so much, Lisa, for offering that to everyone. And I'm sure people would definitely be in contact with you. Lisa, I just want to say thank you for being such a great guest here on the show. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I love that connection and that inspiration that you've shared in this interview. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Well, that's it for today, guys and gals. I hope you enjoyed the show. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and I'll speak to you real soon. Bye.